Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about how Hunter Biden, who's had quite a bit of legal trouble, and we'll see where it all goes. I'm kind of a pessimist with that stuff. I don't expect justice in this world for them. But he's had a lot of eyes on him for a lot of different reasons, but one of them that I keep mentioning because the president's so anti-Second Amendment is the fact that his son lied on an ATF form. So I guess it's possible that they could charge him, or they're talking about, I don't know how serious it is if they're really going to do anything. But he's clearly was a drug addict when he applied on an ATF form to get a firearm. So his lawyers are saying that, or people close within the lawyers or whatever are saying, if they go that route where they try to get him on the gun charge, he's going to argue that it's unconstitutional for him not to have the firearm. So you have the president going around saying your rights, the amendments aren't absolute, and trying to really put a damper on your gun rights. And his son, who again lied on the ATF form to get that gun and had that gun and was irresponsible with his gun too. I think I don't know if that was that particular gun, but there's a gun he just like hit him or his girl like threw in a garbage can near a school or something crazy. And I think the Secret Service had to go and get it, but very irresponsible person in general. But if he uses that to strengthen the Second Amendment and make a case, that would be pretty wild. It's just hilarious. This is a very funny timeline. Very, very funny timeline. So we'll be talking about that. Also, I wrote a post today about it was just a quick post on YouTube to point to an article that I've had written, and then somebody wrote something that was pretty gross about foster kids that I want to address. And they don't think they mean to attack foster kids when, like, if I bring up abortion and they bring up foster kids, I don't know how much is going in their mind that they're basically saying it's better off to kill the foster kids. But I want to talk about it. So, and some other things as well. So before we jump into it, I would encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. I just laughed because I saw a meme of someone just really blew up Chris Christie and made him really large. I'm going through Right to Bear memes page. So I'm talking to you. Go to the website, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost to stream, cost to run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can support, I really do appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook, you can do stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do super chats and stickers and stuff. So thank you to those who do that. But if you can go the extra mile, go to the website and donate. It's very much appreciated. If you can't, I thank you guys for commenting, for tagging other people, encouraging them to watch and so on. It means a lot. And I thank you to those who watch it back later. That also does really still help too. Please check out different merch that we have at blacktnews.com on the website. I'll just show a thing or two since it's the month of June. And I'm going to be pushing, on the 24th, it will be the anniversary of when Roe v. Wade was overturned, which is also my sister's birthday, which is 2 weeks before my birthday. So my birthday is actually next Saturday. So I think it's next Saturday. I don't think it's this Saturday. Yeah, it's next Saturday. Forgot what day it was. Yeah, next Saturday is my birthday. So we'll be celebrating, or at least I'll be doing a lot of pro-life content, pushing a lot of articles and other stuff like that. So I know people like to celebrate another thing this month, but man, it feels like we've been talking about pride, and there's been pride things like all year long. There's always a new darn day. There's always a new darn day. But yeah, if you want to celebrate that, that's your prerogative. But I'll have a different focus this month. So I'll be reaching out to my pro life contacts and doing some different interviews with people on the show, and having some cool new merch and other things like that. So just be on the lookout for different things going on. My church, on a side note, is also doing like a we're gathering supplies for pregnancy crisis centers, and so at the end of the month we're gonna go, bring stuff over. So we're collecting different things. So I encourage you to do the same. If you're, you know, I guess I can find out some ones in. I guess I could find out ones everywhere, but yeah, I live in Michigan, so we looked up ones that were close, and so that's what we're gonna do as a church. And so I recommend that other people look up different pregnancy crisis centers or different organizations like Let Them Live. Let Them Live is an organization that raises funds for mothers using like data, because a lot of women actually, have abortions because they say they don't have the finances to do it. That's a huge chunk of abortions. And so they raise money to help women, be able to make a better decision because they unburden them with the funds. So there's different groups that you can reach out and help and support. And I think particularly this month, but particularly you should do it every chance that you are able, but if you can, yeah, go ahead and be proactive. If you really do care about this issue. I mean, I thank everyone for, arming yourself with information, for becoming advocates, for going on the sidewalks and all that stuff, or debating people online. But if you can, volunteer at these places, or, dig into your pocket a bit, pick up diapers and wipes and baby toys and other things that, these places need, and give out to other women. I encourage you to go that extra mile if you can. So my sister Tina, who has a birthday on the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned, she's over our youth stuff at church, and she, it was her idea to do that. So good job, Tina. Good job. But anyway, I got the pro-choice men are sus shirt, and sus is for suspect, because I hear and see pro-choice men say the weirdest kind of grossest arguments for abortion, and I kind of question their sincerity and their motivation sometimes. So that's why I made the t-shirt. Also, I do have the Roe and Casey aborted shirts and the life wins, so those are available at blacktnews.com, so you guys can pick that up at the store. So I don't actually have a meme for you guys. I was looking through, but I didn't find anyone that quite hit the spot. I mean, there were some. I see a lot of GIFs and people like posting like short, like minute things of like Joker going, "Here we go," talking about Pride Month and things like that over and over again. But no memes today that tickled my fancy to share. I saw some old ones. People are sharing some old ones that I've seen like last year or so. Anyway, let's jump to this Hunter Biden story. It's pretty wild. So it always annoys me when Joe Biden gets on TV and talks about the Second Amendment, and he once said that the Second Amendment, that our rights aren't absolute. I actually did a pretty viral TikTok after he said that, because, well, I don't have it on hand. I don't think I have it on hand. I guess I will try to look for it as I explain it to you guys. But since he said our rights aren't absolute, I'm just like, what about other rights that we have? Are you saying those aren't legit? That those could be in danger if, are we talking about, the right, like the 14th Amendment, for example? So, I think I found it. So give me 1 second. I think I found it on my computer. So I'll just play this if this plays, because this might be the wrong kind of format. I think this is it. If it's not, oh well.
Is absolute. No amendment to the Constitution.
Oh, yeah, that's it. This is it. So this after he said that, I guess we do have a funny for the day. Um, yeah, but I made this TikTok after he said no amendment is absolute. So hopefully this music doesn't like ding me and kick me off because that is from like I don't know, The Conjuring or something.
No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. 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 Put y'all back in chains. Back in chains. Back in chains.
My state was a slave state. Slave state. Slave state.
This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
No, 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 no. So, um, yeah. So that's that's one of my earliest TikToks, and one that went viral. Man, people were mad at me, saying all kinds of goon comments and whatnot. So, I guess I will quickly break down everything. So again, Joe Biden was talking about the Second Amendment and said no right to or absolute. So I brought up the 14th Amendment here and started overlaying pictures of slaves. If anyone wonders how I did this, I did not do this like on my phone. I did it on Premiere, Adobe Premiere, and then I uploaded on TikTok. And then there's the "I'm gonna put y'all back in chains" comment. And so he didn't so he didn't Joe Biden didn't say put him back in chains for like that was his intention. That's from when he was talking about Mitt Romney, like if Mitt Romney and them wins, that he gonna put y'all back in chains or something. So or put y'all back in chains is what he said. So I took that and pieced it together. And then the next part is my state was a slave state. I'm laughing because that's a legit thing that Biden said. And so he was doing an interview with Chris Wallace and talking about when he was running for president and or intended to do whatever. And so Chris Wallace asked like, well, how is a liberal gonna do like you gonna do in these southern states? And he said, you don't know my state. My state was a slave state. So the context of that is legitimately that Biden was bragging about being from a slave state. He was like saying it like it was a positive to help him win in the Democrat primary. That is the context of that clip. So I had to include that, which by the way, I do have a shirt. Let me just show the shirt really quickly. I have a shirt that I made that has a list of racist things Joe Biden has said and done. So the front of the shirt says denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden. And so bragging about a slave state is definitely in there on the back. So I have them in short sleeve and I do have them in long sleeve. I have the long sleeve version. It's pretty darn comfortable. So feel free to get that shirt. What's the next part? Oh, context. Makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. That's when he was talking about the different laws that they were talking about, the voter ID. Like if you did mail in or something, you'd have to verify yourself, and how they're coming at, was it Atlanta? We're talking about Georgia and their election laws, and everyone was acting like, I don't know, it was new slave laws or something like that. So he said it makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle, and no one really knew what that meant so much. But Jim Eagle became like a reoccurring theme in my TikToks. So I have 3 that are like this. And each one has the the eagle at the end. So that was, again, this is one of my earlier TikToks, and it was a lot of fun. I was glad that it was appreciated among most people, but a lot of folks were mad and were calling me coon and Uncle Tom, and Like, it's only white people agreeing with you in the comments. I'm like, that's not even true. But like, and what would it matter if it was mostly or even all white people agreeing in the comments? With it, if I have no one agreeing with me, I guess should question. You should question if you're like the only one who thinks a particular kind of thing. But I always say, if I have to stand alone on the truth, I will stand alone. If it needs to be done, I will do it. But I'm not the type of person who's just going to abandon everything to follow a crowd. That's not me. That's not me. If I have to be alone and isolated, that is me. that is me. My sisters were having a conversation the other day trying to figure out what to do for my birthday, and they're like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "When you want to go to a restaurant?" I'm like, "I don't know." And there's other things I needed to do, including prepare for yesterday's show. And so eventually I was just like, they're like, "Girl, what is wrong with you? We're trying to do something nice for you." I'm like, and I did say, well, "You can leave me alone right now." And then they're like, "Oh, so we ain't got to give you no gift." I'm like, "No, you can still give me a gift." But, yeah, I don't know. A lot of times I would just like to be like alone. I'm very introverted, which may surprise you guys because I talk to you guys all the time. But, if I'm alone on my computer all day, that's pretty much a good darn day to me. I am not social. I'm not. That doesn't mean that when you meet me and we have a conversation that we're not going to talk and engage and it'll be fine and I won't come off like a freak, or that I will come off like a freak rather. You know, years of having to do stuff will train you to I don't know, fake funk or be social, whatever. But if we do talk and and you meet me and I'm a little smiley but a little short, don't take it personal. I am really introverted. I really am. So I don't know. We'll figure it out what we're gonna do for the birthday day. We'll figure it out. But anyway, that's my TikTok. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But anyway, Biden said rights aren't absolute, or the amendments aren't absolute. Like they could just I don't know with just change things with the guns, which is a drastic change with from when he was running. Because when he was running, Kamala Harris was all like, "I'll use executive orders to do this or whatever on guns," and then Joe Biden's like, "No, you can't do that." And then she starts laughing. She starts laughing at the man. And she's like, "You say no, we can't. I say yes, we can, Joe." She just starts her cackle. And Joe Biden's just like, "No, there's some things that you can't use executive orders for." And as you know, Joe Biden is full of crap for two reasons. One, he's definitely made some executive orders, not like a confiscation ban or something like that, but he's made some executive orders on guns. But two, if you want to run as the serious, back to basics sort of president stability, whatever, that's what you're doing. That's the person who you are. And you're on a debate stage with someone who is laughing about just totally stepping on the constitutional rights of Americans, or we say constitutional rights, but rights that are God-given. And if you're offended by God-given, it's just natural rights that we have inherently that are affirmed by the Constitution. And you're laughing about just stripping that away with a stroke of a pen. That person is laughing at you and is laughing at America, basically. And you're just like, "I'm going to have her be my vice president." What? A joke. So, he's been really anti-gun. And he'll try to pretend like he's not by saying like sometimes like, "I own a shotgun and I'll just shoot it in the air if I hear an intruder," like as if that's a thing that you should just do, just shoot it off all the time in the air. But we know, and I know, and I've mentioned this many times, and I've said, I don't want to hear this man talk about guns unless it is addressed with his son lying on an ATF form to obtain a gun. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything until this is addressed, because you cannot just be like, "Oh, we need to do something about these guns," but someone we all know has broken the law regarding firearms and there is no repercussions for it. it is an open shut kind of case about him lying on this ATF form and getting his gun, because he admitted by his own words that he was doing drugs at the time. So if there's no punishment and acknowledgement for people who are going to openly break the gun laws, then why should responsible citizens just give up their firearms when you have no intention of protecting citizens or holding the guilty accountable for when they do bad things? We talked yesterday about the Lululemon situation where there were two women who called the police in Georgia, and they ended up getting fired. Them calling the police and taking the license plate of the robbers who've, done multiple hits and stuff, or at least the store had been hit multiple times, it led to their arrest. They did a good thing, and they were punished for it because the store had a zero tolerance policy for that. So they got fired. So we just have a society today that lets the wicked run rampant. So why should people give up their firearms if they are responsible citizens, whether they want to go shoot for sport? I know plenty of people who do that for fun, and it is fun to do that. Me and my sisters went, to go shoot some guns and stuff with some people that we knew. It's a pretty fun thing to do. Or whether you go and hunt, knew a lot of people who would go out and hunt for their food for their family, especially when we lived out in a rural area. People did that. We still live in a trailer park when I was in like middle school, high school. And I remember coming home and there's just a deer carcass outside. So people, go out and they hunt, especially like in Michigan and stuff. But you also, if you want that firearm to protect yourself, to protect your family, who is responsible for your self-preservation if not yourself? So if you want people to lay down their firearms, how are you going to respond when the criminals say screw you, right? So Hunter Biden, his son, has a lot of legal issues and problems, and I will repeat this, I have no optimism about him paying for any such things, really, because I'm just a cynic, I suppose, with this stuff. I don't really think they're gonna, especially with the dad being the president and the Justice Department, being biased and stuff. They claim that they're try to be impartial. It's just not true. Whistleblowers have come out, tried to say stuff, and then there's retaliation and whatever. I wouldn't hold your breath if you're expecting Hunter Biden or Joe or anybody to be held accountable. And I'm sorry if I'm a downer, but this is kind of funny in a clown world kind of way. So could Hunter Biden be the next poster child for the Second Amendment rights? Hunter Biden could soon find himself in a surprising position at the cutting edge of the fight to strengthen the Second Amendment. The president's son is the target of a Justice Department's investigation scrutinizing his purchase of a gun in 2018, a time when he has said he was regularly using crack cocaine. Okay. Federal law bans drug users from owning guns. By the way, Hunter Biden was so strung out for crack. If he couldn't find crack, he would sniff Parmesan cheese. Jack Posobiec had made a shirt with like Parmesan cheese or whatever, and I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought about that design. But anyway, but the constitutionality of that law, like many other provisions restricting gun ownership, is newly in question after a president-rocking decision the Supreme Court handed down almost a year ago. His lawyers have already told Justice Department officials that if their client is charged with a gun crime, they will challenge the law under the Second Amendment, according to the person familiar with the private discussions granted anonymity because they are not authorized to speak publicly. That could turn a case that is already fraught with potential with political consequences into a high-profile showdown over the right to bear arms. So his daddy, who was like on the warpath for guns, always has something to say about the firearms, and Joe Biden has said some super radical things. Like people will say stuff like use interchangeable kind of language and like we need to get rid of assault weapons, and they won't be too specific, and then they'll say things. Joe Biden has said we need to get rid of all. He said something about getting rid of semi-automatic guns. It's just like. I know you should know that most guns are semi-automatic. Like automatic just means you would hold down the trigger and it's going to keep sputtering. A semi-automatic just means you got to keep pulling the trigger. Like that's what that means. There's a lot of people who, don't know anything about firearms and are so passionate against them. So, it would be wild if he makes his claim and his lawyers go that route and he ends up strengthening the Second Amendment. And I don't know where all that would lead as far as drug users and folks having the firearms. Would it just be like there should be no restrictions on who gets a gun then? His lawyers have, I think I already read that section. The dispute would come as the White House fights to tighten gun laws, and it could put conservative gun rights enthusiasts who typically criticize the Biden family in an unusual alignment with the president's son. Federal prosecutors are expected to soon finalize the Hunter Biden investigation. David Weiss, the U.S. attorney for Delaware, who was appointed by former President Donald Trump, is leading the probe. Attorney General Merrick Garland said in May that Weiss is capable of making any decisions that he feels are appropriate and that he won't face political pressure. Weiss is widely reported to be examining potential tax crimes related to undeclared income, as well as Hunter Biden's purchase of a handgun in October 2018. I'm really not optimistic about like any of that tax stuff going, any of that other stuff. And I didn't even know if they were looking at the gun thing. This is kind of news to me, but it's something that he obviously did. So I don't know how they really get out of that other than being like, making up some kind of new standard or precedent or something to just not charge him. But he clearly did a bad thing. When he bought the gun, Biden filled out a federal form on which he allegedly avowed that he was not an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance, Politico reported in 2021. But according to Biden's 2021 memoir, he frequently used crack cocaine at the time. I was smoking crack every 15 minutes, he wrote. Every 15 minutes. A lawyer for Hunter Biden declined to comment for this article. A White House spokesperson declined to comment as well, citing the fact that the president's son is a private citizen and that the Justice Department probe is ongoing. The Gun Control Act of 1968 prohibits unlawful drug users from possessing firearms. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms says the ban applies to people who have admitted to using illegal drugs in the 12 months before buying a gun. Violators can receive up to 15 years in prison, but the provision, long considered to be an unassailable gun restriction, now faces challenges. Last June, the Supreme Court undid decades of lower court jurisprudence about the Second Amendment in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. The court's six-justice conservative majority ruled that contemporary gun restrictions must be consistent with those of the founding era. This new constitutional test presents a massive opening for people working to loosen gun restrictions, since firearm laws in America's founding era were, in some ways, extremely permissive. The president, meanwhile, called the ruling deeply troubling and said it contradicts both common sense and the Constitution. They gotta ask. I don't know if they did ask today if there was a Ducey moment or something. I haven't looked, but they've gotta ask Biden, or I guess at least Pierre, to the press secretary, to comment on this, because he's commented on the ruling. He's commented on gun stuff all the time. So if his son and his lawyers are saying that they will challenge this and really really open up gun usage, that would be crazy. He has to have a comment. He has to have a comment. There has to be a comment somewhere. Or if not a comment, there has to be a question. They have to ask the question. Since Buren, most courts have still upheld the law banning drug users from owning guns, according to Jeff Weltley, a professor at the School of Government at the University of North Carolina, who closely tracks gun cases, but several have ruled against it. A majority isn't everybody, Weltley said, and given how unsettled the law is in that area, I think anyone charged with a violation of that statute would give serious consideration to raising the Second Amendment as a defense. Just a week after Buren was released, a federal district judge in Utah ruled that the prohibition on drug users owning guns was unconstitutional because of its vagueness. Judge Dill Parrish noted that the statute itself doesn't define the word user and also doesn't say how the timing of people's drug use affects their right to own guns. Parrish's ruling, which the government has appealed, was based on the Fifth Amendment, not the Second, so it did not cite the Supreme Court's Buren decision, but Buren only strengthens challenges to the drug user prohibition. So that's, you guys can I'm gonna call it a quits there, but it's really fascinating in the least bit, and I don't know where it will go, but I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny. But he still lied on that form. He still lied on the form, at least. So is there going to be any punishment there at all? I don't think so. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, given what he did, knowingly lying and so on. But again, if people like Hunter Biden can do this stuff and get away with it, and there's no sort of repercussions, why do you expect everyone else who are law-abiding citizens to just give up their guns, including their AR-15s, which are very popular guns, very popular firearms, which are not used in the majority of mass shootings. Like not all propaganda, but plenty of propaganda would make you believe, I suppose. Handguns are used for the majority of mass shootings. So if you're a person who's like, well, we can just get rid of AR-15s, why? Why? Because if the reasoning is they'll just use, because that's what people use in majority of mass shooting situations. Well, I assume if people will still want to do them, they will just use other firearms, including handguns, maybe shotguns. There was a time when people were scared about bomb threats and stuff, when I was younger. So you can't stop crazy people from inventing new ways to kind of cause harm. You just kind of have to try to prevent them from doing those things and make deterrence and focus on mental health. But we have no intention as a society of really thinking about mental health. I wrote an article some time ago about how America is sick and they don't really want to do what's appropriate for the mental health. And I'll show you a quick example. Now this didn't actually happen in the US. This is in the UK. So the cover of Glamour is this trans man, which is a woman who believes that she's a man, being pregnant. And they interviewed her for their magazine, for Glamour. Pregnant men here. And that's like body paint. So she's naked, I guess. Or maybe she's wearing shorts or something. Or underwear. I don't know. But they do have body paint people who they just paint them naked and stuff. So trans, pregnant, proud. Um, Glamour met Logan 2 weeks before he gave birth to his daughter, Nova, to talk about queer love, gender dysphoria, and navigating the NHS as a pregnant transgender man. Okay, if you have gender dysphoria and you're a woman and you're uncomfortable with your body as a woman and you feel like you're a man, why would you have a baby? I don't know what that's like. Having gender dysphoria. But if you feel an extreme discomfort about being in your female body, there's nothing more woman. And I'm not saying you're not a woman if you can't have a baby, so don't get triggered. Don't interpret it that way. But our bodies are ordered to have babies. The sexes are distinct and defined by our gametes, and whether it's ova or sperm. So she produced ova, obviously, and has a womb and stuff, and is carrying a baby. So there's nothing more woman, with the exception of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Junior, than having a baby and carrying a baby and having a pelvis that can handle that. Oh my gosh. There's a great video of someone in a museum and they just show like a ball. There's a ball and they show the ball trying to squeeze through like a woman's pelvis versus like a man. And men just aren't built that way. They're just not. So, everything about her whole life has prepared her for this moment. Everything. Periods that we're not too fond of. That is your body preparing to be pregnant. It happens when your body starts maturing and stuff. And then you're not pregnant, so you start shedding the lining of your uterus and stuff. I mean, the uterine lining starts shedding and stuff, and you're bleeding, and it's gross, and it's awful, and it's very painful. For not everybody, but mine are. So everything is preparing you for this moment. So if you have dysphoria, and she cut off her breast, so I guess I don't know how much thought she gave to feeding her baby one day, if that's what she thought that she wanted. But how does this not mess up or conflict with your dysphoria? Could it be possible that maybe there was a different thing going on within her mind that translated as dysphoria, but maybe it could have been like, I don't know, internalized misogyny and a bunch of other stuff. I read a thread from a detransitioner, and they said that basically they became trans and transition, and it was rooted in, they were sexually assaulted when they were younger, and they were very religious growing up, and they were very prude, and they didn't like the idea of just men like oogling at them and sexualizing them and other stuff, and it just led to not wanting to be seen as a woman by and admired in that way by the opposite sex. And so and I've heard that from other people. The founder of the Rainbow Coalition Project, the Rainbow Redemption Project, who's on, I can't think of her name, but she was interviewed on Ali Stuckley's podcast, and she basically said something similar, like she, wanted to be, protected and stuff, but at the end of the day, it didn't really protect her, because I don't know, she might have been like assaulted and stuff again, but whatever reason why she felt she wasn't protected, it didn't end up working. So I'm not saying there's not some level of dysphoria that led her to chopping off her titas, but this isn't making sense to me. Like, it doesn't make sense anyway, and it's really gross for British glamour to do this and promote this and try to make this normal or whatever. But that's where we are as a society. So I know that this is a British glamour, but we're doing this weird stuff in the United States. And one reason why I'm such a kind of stickler with the pronouns and the gender and sex being basically the same thing is because I don't believe that people want to have these things be separate, because I think the goal isn't to keep them separate. I think the goal is to undermine biology. Again, there's nothing more woman than having a baby there. But let me show you another example. There was the was it the United Nations, I think, had a, brace yourself, this is kind of gross. Kind of gross. Not like hideously gross, but just gross. So, United Nations, menstrual health is a human right and periods are a normal part of human biology. Yet 500 million people lack access to menstrual products and adequate facilities. So, Sunday's Menstrual Hygiene Day. Let's end the stigma around menstruation. And so that's the image. First of all, you learn very young to not wear white. So I'm just like, there's always going to be a stigma associated with it, because I'm sorry, it is a bit gross, dealing with whole bodily fluid from areas. It's and you don't feel great, during that whole process. So people like, we need to end the stigma, which in 2016, like around that time, there were like the craziest stuff coming out from feminists, like doing things where they just had blood on their pants and other stuff. I remember showing my mom a picture and she was just like, they're sick. And she just kept repeating it again and again and again. But the thing though is that they say menstrual health is a human right. And yes, women are human, females are human. And periods are part of the normal human biology. Well, they're not. Not all humans, just the ladies. So, you don't see women in here. You don't even see female. You don't even see them say females. It's not a part of female human biology. They don't even have that because they don't want you to really have a distinction. It's like we're all supposed to be some kind of big blob of back and forth and in betweens and nothing specific. It's so strange and weird and gross. And so I draw a pretty firm line. A friend of mine asked me about a video that I did the other day, which you guys got a long version. I talked about Kelly. If you watch the show, Kelly's a trans woman who's first time I saw Kelly was on a TikTok live, and I didn't catch a lot of it, but Kelly mentioned that his fake vajayjay was better than real woman's vajayjay. So I was going to light Kelly on fire, but I had screenshot Kelly's live, but I had to do other things and I just didn't end up doing it. But then Kelly was upset about the Covenant shooter and the pronouns, and was mad at the left because they were like, respect the shooter's pronouns. And Kelly's like, they killed kids, so no. And so Kelly started saying things to appeal to the right, and people started sharing Kelly stuff and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Now, I have probably liked a video to a Kelly's, but in my mind, I'm still like, Kelly said his fake vajayjay was better than a real woman's vajayjay. So I'm like, Kelly still seems a little crazy. So, Kelly posted this video talking about how Kelly wanted to leave the right because they wouldn't accept, Kelly, and they didn't want him in their bathrooms, and they didn't want him in, to celebrate Mother's Day, and which no one can stop you from celebrating Mother's Day. It just, we just won't validate you in that. But, and like they're calling my vajayjay a wound. I know it's accurate, but I don't like it. So I'm going to leave the right. I'm like, but when Kelly would talk about she started doing like a day, this is my, third day on the right or whatever. I don't think I heard anything about like fiscal policy or gun rights and stuff. And I didn't watch them all, so maybe there's some, but it seemed just like things you're annoyed about with the left with. And so I know people on the right talk about a lot of reactionary politics and stuff, but there's if that's all you are and you're just reacting to people's feelings and emotions and stuff, you're not gonna, maybe the grift will last a while, maybe it won't, but you got to have some kind of solid, firm foundation. There have been Republicans who've treated me great. There have been some who have backstabbed and betrayed and threatened. People do a lot to achieve power, especially in politics. So if everything is rooted in how someone treats you, as opposed to you actually believing in particular principles and policies, you just don't be political at all. Just, pick and choose some things and vote for whoever you think is best. But Kelly then did another video saying that I don't know why I'm so interested in people's opinions of people who don't like me, but now I'm starting to see that they don't really care about me on the right. And I thought I was going to be like the next Candace Owens, and I was going to be on the Daily Wire and all this stuff. And I'm just like, what, why? Like, what, as a token trans person? Say, wow, this is, and people like Matt Walsh, all those folks are pretty hard line on their positions, which, I'm pretty hard line. I think me and Matt are kind of on the same page, but he's just like super prickly. So I'm like, why would you think that you would go on the Daily Wire, especially at the same time when you're maintaining that you're a woman, and you're like, and Kelly will say, well, I'm respecting you guys because I won't call you sis and I call you biological woman. Calling me a biological woman, yet I am biologically a woman. I am not a biological woman. I just am a woman. It's redundant to say a biological woman because only women are biological females. There is no other kind. So you're still trying to wedge yourself in there. So Kelly still thinks that he's a woman. So I'm just like, you were never going to make it a Daily Wire. So anyway, a friend of mine asked me, like, do I think that Kelly would be safe in a woman's bathroom? And I gave an 8-minute reply. It was more than 8 minutes, and I put it on TikTok, and it was like instantly it's reported, and it had 1 view. So whoever that person was who saw it, you're a jerk. But I thought there was maybe a possibility it wouldn't last long, but it only for long enough for 1 view, because I posted it right before Bible study, and then I looked at it afterwards. I'm like, oh. And it I actually was kind of posting it during Bible study, so it was maybe like a 30-minute interval before it was like posted and banned, and probably way shorter than that, probably, that I just didn't notice it. But my response really was, if you're concerned about it's, I think mostly would be safe. Yes. Are there some instances where you might go to another bathroom? Like the last public bathroom I peed in was at Red Lobster. If I had gone into Red Lobster to use a men's room, because I don't know, the woman's bathroom was full or something, and I accidentally went in there, I wouldn't feel like I was in danger of being assaulted or something. I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But I don't believe that men are just these terrible, immoral monsters that I have to live in fear of. What women don't appreciate, or what makes us sensitive, and heightens our emotions and sets off our alarm bells are when there are males that don't belong in our space, that are insistent about being in our space and don't prefer to be chivalrous, but are like, shut up, get over it. And we're in these places. We do more in our bathrooms than men. Men will be like, take a leak, get out. Women, my sister worked at the mall for a long time and she would change in the bathroom all the time. So she's very adamant about not wanting, males in the bathroom, trans women in the bathroom. Women will do their makeup, they'll socialize, they'll bring their kids in there, etc. And I'm not saying there's never an instance where it's appropriate for men to go in, because I've heard of like a man going to the woman's bathroom to help his wife who was, immobile, or a father might come in for his daughter and just kind of be standing in the corner or something while she uses whatever. Like, I'm not saying there's not instances where, you can't allow overlap. So I think, I don't know, some of these laws might be too strict or whatever. I haven't looked into them all about the gender bathroom, whatever. But as far as like, should you come in just because you look like a woman? And Kelly does have an Adam's apple and big hands, but for the most part passes. And so people were like, why wouldn't you just let her in the bathroom because she passes? And I'm like, because Kelly is not a she, because Kelly is a man. And maybe I wouldn't know if we just were randos or something, but I know Kelly is a man because Kelly has told us that Kelly is a man. So what's the difference from a not passing man wanting to come into the bathroom who identifies as a woman versus Kelly coming into the bathroom who maybe does pass, but I know is a man? What's the difference? What's the difference? I don't know. No one's the best difference that people have described have been like, well, Kelly really put the work in because Kelly has bottom surgery. I'm like, well, Kelly looks passable because Kelly transitioned, and I guess that's not the case for everybody, but Kelly transitioned as a minor, and Kelly's against other people doing that. So to me, if that's the standard, because you really, really look it or whatever, so we gotta, treat you like you're a woman, that validates people wanting to transition as minors, and I don't think that's a good thing. And Kelly doesn't even think that's a good thing. So, and there's other people who do the bottom surgery who don't look so successful and still are big kind of hulking figures. So, I just don't, if you're saying it's a special circumstance for Kelly, it didn't make sense to me. So anyway, I replied to my friend, but if it's just an issue of, will they be in more danger if they're consistently going into male spaces? Well, why does that stop at bathroom? What about the men's locker room? What about the men's prison? If it's always like, we have to consider their particular safety, it's like, okay, but what about the women who are trying to consider their safety if you're saying that they can come in their space? So I'm pretty hardline, like, either we have these sex segregated spaces for women or we don't. And I don't think the men care as much. So I'm not as concerned with the trans men thing, because again, I don't think men care that much. And that's, men can let me know if they feel differently, to me, it kind of seems like I've heard a lot of men say they don't care. they just being, it is what it is. It's the women who are far more conflicted about it. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of the women who, seem to be okay in a situation where they see someone who passes, even though they would know that they're a man. It seems like sometimes they just get you because they don't want to be too mean. But it's not personal. Like, my opinion isn't personal on it. It's a principle issue. Like, you're not a woman, and I can't validate you being a woman because I have to stand up for this objective truth that you can call yourself a trans woman, you can call yourself a trans man, but you literally can't transition into anything. Never. What you started as, the end point is the same. You're just a little chopped up. So, I don't think it's right that people have these different issues with themselves and their body image, and the solution is to go do self-harm, to cut themselves up. How is that any different from people who cut themselves to feel relief, or who starve themselves to feel relief for their body image? How is that any different? I think there's got to be another way. Anyway, let's move on. So I wanted to talk really quickly about this post that I made. So I said I'm often told if women have an abortion that has nothing to do with me. There's a There's a ton of great rebuttals to this besides the immoral implications of ignoring human rights violations based upon how much it impacts you. I totally reject that idea that it doesn't impact me at all. Not only do abortion advocates consistently seek ways to make taxpayers fund abortion, there are a lot of societal harm that goes along with it. So I linked an article that I wrote over a year ago, maybe, I don't know if it was 2 years ago now, but I linked an article that I wrote on my website about the societal harm of abortion. And by the way, I didn't even mention this today. I did cover that in my book as well. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. So there's a section in there that talks about the societal harm of abortion. Again, when people say it's none of your business, I reject that for a lot of different reasons. Like morally, like it's a human rights violation, or saying everyone should just ignore bad things when they happen if it doesn't like personally affect them. And we can talk about how people's money are definitely involved, and how it used to be that people say, well, you know, you're no one's making you pay for abortion. That's abandoned. That is abandoned. They want you to pay for it now. It is so abandoned. But someone the other day in the comments told me, like, you shouldn't waste your time with abortion. Maybe they didn't say that directly, but they're like, I think that's actually what they said, but you should focus your attention on universal health care or something, because they were talking about birth control, blah, 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 etc. And then they got to, like, instead of fighting for abortion or to be banned or whatever, you should be fighting for universal health care. So I thought that was pretty bold, because they don't know my opinion on universal health care. And people say free health care. Nothing is free. I'm not a fan of the idea of universal health care. I'm not saying that America has a great system or the best system or whatever, but I think there are definitely, as far as different things that we're pitching, that's like universal health care would be our equivalent to it. There's definitely reasons to not want to support them. So, but I thought of a really good reason in that conversation, because Canada, for example, has, you know, universal health care, and they pay for abortions. So if we have universal health care, what makes you think that we're not just going to get to a point where they just make our taxpayers pay for like all abortions, or virtually all abortions, or most of them? So if that's where we're going, I definitely don't want to do that. I definitely don't want to do that. So, but I think that's definitely where we could be headed. But they definitely want taxpayers to pay for abortions. They want to force employers to cover abortions. So that's not something new. At least there were different pills, like the Hobby Lobby case or whatever. They really fought the courts to not have to pay for that stuff. But there are people who flat out want not just pills that can make an embryo not implant. There are people who want employers to pay for abortions, and there are some people who are already like paying for to reimburse you if you go out of town or something to get an abortion. Some companies are already doing that, but they want employers to flat out just pay upfront for the abortions. So the none of your business doesn't make sense on that front, but I explain that there's a lot of societal harm in the abortion as well. So I have that article on my website you guys can check out, but I do also cover that in the book. I think there's some more points. There's obviously more points in this book because it's newer as opposed to that article, but that's something that I mentioned in it. So it's available on Barnes & Noble and also Amazon. So you guys can go check that out and grab that. But after I posted that response, there was someone who had a pretty awful response because they said that, well, they brought up foster care, which isn't new, not in the least bit. A lot of people bring up foster care. But they left a comment that said, and you want us to foster, because someone was like, oh, that's a really good point. They do want us to pay for abortions. And they said, well, you want us to fund the foster care children in adoption institutions. And with so many unwanted and neglected children, I will vote for abortion when the foster care program is not needed any longer. So, and then someone was like, asked, like, have you seen an abortion? And then they replied, like, have you seen a crack baby? So someone replied to that person, was like, I was in the foster care, like, don't use me to support abortion. And I'm just like, people know people who used drugs and other stuff, and they, you know, whether it's a crack baby or not, like, you definitely shouldn't have crack babies, but or do crack, but should you just kill everyone? No. So that was weird, but I did a pretty long response because it always is weird when people bring up foster care, because essentially what they're saying, I think I'll just go ahead and read my response to this. Just so we're clear, there are more parents waiting to adopt babies than are available newborn babies. I'm not saying newborns can't go into the foster care system, but if you have an adoption plan, it's not usually something you have to worry about. Now, I think it is so weird when people bring up foster care. A majority of the kids are not available to be adopted because parents still have their rights. But the important thing to acknowledge is that these kids are wards of the state. The assumption appears to be that women have abortions because their children are unwanted, and if they are unwanted, they'll end up in foster care. But the kids in foster care might not be from parents who didn't want them at the time of the pregnancy. Maybe their parents died. Maybe their parents were dangerous and had to be temporarily removed. But the goal of the foster care system is reunification. The parents who have their children removed may have never even contemplated abortion. So this is a really awful mentality. And I'll see people justify all the time, like, we need to have abortion because parents suck. It's like, but parents can want kids, be planning kids, or maybe it was an oopsie, but they would never think about abortion and still be trash parents. Like, there was this one paramedic who was so upset and told this horrible story about how she went over to this house with these parents and they were clearly not fit and stuff, and they helped the child and like resuscitated them and stuff because some kind of event happened, and the, I don't know, hospital or somebody didn't do their due diligence, and that child went back into the custody of the parents. And then they got the call like a few days later, if it wasn't the next day, that the child was dead. And they went on that whole rant explaining that story, and they ended up with, that is why I support a woman's right to choose. And people are like, oh yeah, that's so good, that's so good. And I'm like, but how do you know? You're speaking as if those parents were denied an abortion and that's why they have children. Again, you can plan to have kids or be someone who would never ever think of aborting kids and then be a trash parent. And you can have unplanned babies and be a great parent. That happens all the time. So this idea that we have to abort the children so they won't end up in foster care assumes that all these kids are in foster care because their parents didn't abort them, when maybe they were never on the chopping block in the first place. So it's a really, really bad argument. So, let me go on. Because what the commentator and many like her are essentially saying is they want to support abortion because it's better to kill the children before they end up in foster care. Not only have I heard many people from the foster care system say they resent the fact that you think it would have been better to kill them than allow them to live their complicated yet meaningful lives. Yet it's also a huge leap to assume that an aborted baby would have ever made it into the foster care system. I don't want abortion on demand to be legal at all, but I certainly don't want to pay for it. We're now at a time in our society when abortion activists don't bother with the illusion of no one is asking you to pay for it. They want you to. Subsidizing it makes it more legitimate and grants guaranteed business. But if we were going to pay for something, why wouldn't it be for children who cannot pay for themselves rather than pay for women to violate their unalienable right to life, which the government was created to ensure according to the Declaration of Independence? If you go read the Declaration of Independence, it says that, talks about why we form governments. So one of those reasons is, of course, to ensure our liberties and our inalienable rights. And what's the first one that they mention? The right to life. And the right to life it's not a right to live forever, but it is a right to not be killed. So, such a weird post. And it's so weird that people bring up foster care all the time, when they don't have anything to do with each other. They really don't. They really, 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 really don't. And what they're really saying is that it's okay to kill people who are a burden to society. And that's the argument. You don't want to burden the system with these kids who are unwanted, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they try to make it seem like it's for their sake. But if it's okay to kill people for suffering, then why not just be like, well, let's just go round them up and take them out now? Because people think that's abhorrent, but the baby, if it's a fetus in a womb, it's out of sight, out of mind. And so it's okay to do it there. So because they don't seem so, you've given yourself permission to see them as inhuman, so you give yourself permission to treat them inhumane. That's what it is. That's what it is. So if you are a pro-choice person who happens to be watching, I advise you, to switch sides, but I really advise you to stop comparing it to foster care. Now, you will hear foster care kids eventually, every so often, or people who aren't even in foster care or whatever, who will say, I wish I were aborted, which that is so incredibly sad for many reasons to say, but I don't think people think about how deeply that statement is. Because if you're saying you would have rather been aborted, that's not even saying you wouldn't have rather just not existed. You're saying that you wish that someone had killed you, that your mother had killed you, that you have this permanent mark on her soul for that. Well, not permanent if you repent to Jesus, but that they have to carry that at least for the rest of their life. So you'd put that on your mother, and you'd wish that violence on yourself. And so what does that mean? It means the sum total of your life, the relationships that you have, the people that you know, the accomplishments that you made or didn't make or whatever, that all of it results into a net negative. That we'd all, society, life, or whatever, would either be better without you, or I don't know, that your life is so meaningless that I guess you don't necessarily care that you would have been here or not, but that you were a waste of time the whole time. And but even it would have to be a negative. It can't just be a space, because even zero is a placeholder. Zero has a purpose. So even if you thought your life amounted to nothing, I'm pretty sure that at some point of time, you doing something or you being somewhere, your interaction with somebody has been a net positive that rippled into a positive direction somewhere. But if you think that you should have been aborted as a child in the womb, you think your whole life is just a negative. And so I don't think I'm always concerned when people say that. Again, I think a lot of people maybe don't think of the depth of what they're saying, but what a really, really awful thing to say. A really, really awful thing to say. So I just advise people to think deeper in the things that they mean. Again, I'm always concerned when someone says something like that, and I pray that you can at least turn around and see the beauty in life, your life, the value in your life, at least the way that God sees you. Anyway, thank you guys very much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. Articles like the societal harm of abortion. I got a lot of content on the subject. Actually, I'm about to send out an email. So I encourage people to focus on life this month. The 24th will be the 1-year anniversary of Roe v. Wade being overturned. So that's pretty exciting. Again, I'll have like announcements of when I can solidify people coming on the show and doing some interviews and different stuff. Some great, folks. And please go ahead and check out, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. This month is a good month to get it. Especially because it's my birthday month, guys. Especially because it's my birthday month. So go ahead and go on Amazon and pick it up. You guys can get it in paperback. You guys can get it on ebook. But it covers what kind of starts talking about the political kind of climate of today. But it goes into the science. It goes into rights and philosophy and stuff. And then it breaks down the theology. And then it talks about kind of real world ramifications, and it talks about why we need objective morality, and again the societal harm of abortion and how it's harmed women, and how we've got to this point where women feel like it's such a need. And then it also talks about redemption over condemnation. I don't talk about the subject to condemn women to hell. That's not my goal. That's not what I want to do in the least bit. But I do want to see abortion end, and we have to at least talk about how awful it is and how it has really negatively impacted our society. So go ahead and pick it up for yourself, and then, read it and give it to somebody else, or read it, get yourself a copy and get one for somebody else. But I don't know if Tina's in the chat today, but Tina, my youngest sister, who was born on the anniversary of the fall of Roe v. Wade, is the one who did this artwork, and she did such a beautiful job. So thank you to Tina. It's really, really lovely. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. God bless.